That image, of M.K. Stalin, the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, I mean, wearing a black badge, it's striking, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It wasn't just like an everyday thing, it was a statement, a visual protest against the Lok Sabha passing this Waqf bill.
Right, right. And when you see a leader using that kind of, I guess you could say, personal symbolism, it it feels different. It feels significant.
Exactly. Like this isn't just business as usual, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very deliberate, um, calculated move. And the fact that it wasn't just him, right? It was a coordinated effort by DMK members. It really signals like a unified front. Like we are not okay with this.
Yeah, it's that intensity that really makes you stop and think, okay, what is it about this specific bill?
Well, exactly. What's
Yeah.
making them react so strongly, especially a party, with the political weight that the DMK has, especially in Tamil Nadu.
Right, and that's what we're, diving into today. I mean, you might have seen the headlines, maybe even a picture of that black badge, or even tried to get through like the actual legal language of the bill. And it can be a lot.
Oh, absolutely. It can be dense.
Right. So today what we're really trying to do is cut through all of that, and get to the heart of what this controversy is all about. Why is this Waqf bill causing such a stir?
Yeah, and luckily, we have some really good information to work with here, stuff that really gets into the DMK's stance on this.
Right, because they've been like super vocal about their opposition. Haven't they?
Yeah, very much so. So that gives us a good, sort of path to follow, I think, to understand, what their concerns are.
Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. I mean, the bill did pass in the Lok Sabha, right?
It did, yeah.
288 votes in favor and 232 against.
Right.
Now, obviously, a win is a win, but when you see that number, 232, that's a lot of people saying no.
It's not insignificant.
Right. And Stalin himself, he actually made a point of this. He said 232 members opposing this bill is, quote, no ordinary number.
Yeah, that really stood out to me, too, because it suggests that, even though the bill passed, there's like this undercurrent, of disagreement.
It's not just like everyone was on board and this was a slam dunk. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of, I think fuels the DMK's determination to keep fighting this. Like there's clearly something here that a lot of people aren't happy about.
And it's not just like a recent thing. I mean, the Tamil Nadu Assembly, they actually passed a resolution, right?
Right.
Urging the union government to completely withdraw the bill. This wasn't like a last minute, oh, we don't like this. This was like a very deliberate, this is our stance sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that prior resolution, it's key to understand the DMK's position, because it really shows it wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction. It was, we thought about this.
Yeah.
We're unified on this.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the DMK, right? I mean, this was, if I remember correctly, every party in the Tamil Nadu Assembly except the BJP.
Yeah.
Backed that call to withdraw the bill.
Right. It was near unanimous. It was a really strong statement.
Yeah.
And I think for the DMK to have that, essentially kind of ignored at the central level, it's going to be frustrating.
Right. It's like they all said together, hey, this is important. And then it was kind of just, tossed aside.
Yeah, exactly. Like an old grocery list.
Okay. So then what are those core issues? Like, what is it about this bill that's causing all of this pushback from the DMK? What are their, main arguments?
Well, it seems like their concerns really come down to two big things.
Yeah.
The impact on religious harmony and the autonomy of Waqf boards.
Okay, so just for, people who might not be familiar, what exactly is a Waqf board?
So a Waqf board, think of it like it's a body that manages, properties, institutions, things that have been donated for, religious or charitable purposes.
Oh, okay.
Specifically within the Muslim community.
Okay.
So it's like a community trust.
Got it.
Imagine, you're involved in a community trust, right?
Yeah.
And you're overseeing, I don't know, local school or a mosque.
Right.
And then suddenly the government says, hey, we're going to be more involved in how this is managed. We'll be setting, more of the rules. You can see how that would raise concerns.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Like you're losing control of something that you've always been responsible for.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what the DMK is saying, that this bill could, undermine the independence of these Waqf boards.
And that could lead to problems like disruptions or even conflict.
Right, potentially, yeah. And they're really framing this as an issue of minority rights, the right of a community to manage its own affairs, especially when it comes to religious matters.
Right. And if you zoom out a little bit, take a wider view, it's not just about the administrative details of Waqf boards, is it?
No, it's bigger than that. It gets into these ideas of like federalism,
Right. Yeah.
states' rights, and the right of, minority communities to, have a say in how things are run, especially when it comes to their religion, without what they see as like undue interference from the central government.
So it's about who has the power to make those decisions, at what level.
Exactly. Exactly. It's about that balance of power,
Yeah, and it's about, protecting the rights of specific communities.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us back to that black badge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a quiet protest, but it's so powerful, isn't it?
It is. There's something about symbols in politics.
Mhm.
They can be really potent. It's like a constant reminder right there for everyone to see, both within the assembly, but also, when those images get out, it sends a message to the public, like, we are not okay with this.
And they're not just, stopping at the symbolism either. Stalin has been pretty clear, they're going to take this to court, right?
Oh, yeah. He's been very explicit about that. He's talking about using legal measures to block the bill.
And not just tweak it either. He's using some strong language. He wants to see it thrown out completely.
Yeah. So what does that tell us?
Well, to me, it sounds like they're not messing around. They're ready for a fight. But what could that legal fight look like? What avenues are there?
So, typically when you have a law like this that faces this kind of opposition, especially when constitutional concerns are being raised, those legal challenges often focus on a few key things.
Okay.
Like, does this bill, go beyond the powers that the union government actually has?
So it's like you're stepping outside your lane.
Exactly. Or does it infringe on, fundamental rights that are, guaranteed by the Constitution?
Okay.
Things like freedom of religion, for example.
Right.
So they might argue that this bill is encroaching on areas that are really the domain of the states, or that it's, unfairly targeting religious minorities.
So it's not about changing a few words here and there. They're saying the whole thing is flawed from the ground up.
Yeah, they're not looking for a quick fix. There was, I think it was Stalin himself who used the analogy of trying to fix like a sinking boat with duct tape.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. So they're saying, the problems with this bill run so deep that little tweaks aren't going to cut it. They want to see it rejected outright.
And this is, obviously a big deal for Tamil Nadu, but they're also talking about this national level, right? This idea of setting a dangerous precedent.
Exactly. So the DMK, they see themselves, not just fighting for Tamil Nadu, but also kind of pushing back against what they see as this overreach, of the central government's power.
Right.
And this potential erosion of minority rights that could have, implications way beyond just their state.
Right. Like what happens in one place, it can ripple out, right?
Absolutely. And they're pointing to, historical situations where, laws that had, kind of shaky foundations were allowed to stand, and it led to, long-term problems.
Right. So they're saying if we don't take a stand now.
Yeah, it could happen again.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's, try to recap a little bit. We have this bill, right, that has passed, but it didn't pass without a fight.
Right, a lot of opposition.
We have the Tamil Nadu Assembly with, pretty much everyone saying, hey, get rid of this bill. And that seems to have been, brushed aside.
Yeah, more or less.
And now we have, this legal battle brewing with the DMK at the forefront. And they're saying, look, this is about religious freedom. It's about the rights of communities. It's about who gets to make the rules.
Exactly. And it brings up these, bigger questions about, how much power the central government has versus the states.
And that's particularly important when we're talking about, sensitive issues like religious affairs.
Absolutely. And the outcome of this legal challenge, it could be really significant, not just for this specific bill, but for how these kinds of things are handled in the future.
Yeah, it feels like this is just the beginning.
Well, I think so too.
The bill might have passed, but it's far from over. The DMK's made it very clear they're not going away.
No, they haven't.
So I guess the big question now is what happens next?
Right. And what will this mean, not just for Tamil Nadu, but for the relationship between the union government and the states when it comes to these kinds of laws that affect, religious minorities across the country. Like, will this be a turning point? Will it shift the balance of power.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone is, waiting to see. It's definitely a situation worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. There's a lot at stake here.
Yeah, a lot at stake.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to have to leave it there for today.
Oh.
But this is, as we said, definitely a story that's going to continue to unfold. So, stay tuned. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been fascinating, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's really, really made me think.
Yeah, me too. Me too.